Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a Korean thriller and horror film, TOON. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with Yoon, a well-known horror webtoon artist, finishing up her last comic titled The Black Veil and using her blood to sign the masterpiece. She then sends the manuscript to her publisher. The publisher grabs a cup of coffee and heads back toward her workstation. She then takes a sip on her way back, smiling. Later, she's taken aback when she sees the image on her computer screen. The comic Yoon sent seems to mirror her life in every detail. She sits down and sees the image on the screen that she is sitting down on as well. She scrolls down, and the comic takes her back to her elementary graduation in 1987. At that very moment, a young boy asks her out, but before she can answer, a commotion occurs. The people around start murmuring, and the center of attention is a woman wearing a black veil to cover the rotting flesh off her face. The black-veiled woman is the publisher's mom. The kids call the publisher's mom the Black Monster and a ghost due to her appearance. This causes so much embarrassment for the publisher that when she returns home, she destroys one of her mom's photos and wishes for her mom's death. After the publisher's mom sees the photo, she hangs herself. The publisher has every chance to help her as her mother hangs herself, but she changes her mind and lets her mom die after she recalls the humiliation she felt. The publisher looks away in tears as her mom passes away behind her. That exact image of her is shown on her screen as if someone took a photo when the incident happened. The publisher is terrified by that. The publisher immediately grabs her phone and tries to contact Yoon, but can't reach her. The publisher leaves a voicemail asking how Yoon discovered the secret of her mother's death. Before she can send the voicemail, the lights in the office turn off, and the motorized blinds and shades roll down. Sensing the danger, she immediately grabs a cutter. The webtoon continues to scroll down and shows the same exact image of what's happening. The publisher runs for the exit, but finds herself trapped. She is then brutally killed by an unknown entity. Two detectives, detective in charge and his partner, are called to investigate the publisher's death. The partner reports that she died at 1 a.m. and was alone when the brutal murder happened. Her body was discovered by a janitor 5 hours later. Detective in charge is convinced that she committed suicide, as there's no evidence that another person was with her when she was killed. The partner reminds him not to jump to a conclusion, but instead dig deep and find out if someone is behind her death. Detective in charge then informs him that he'd be handling the case. As he walks away, a female detective calls him to check the image on the publisher's computer. It shows a comic where a dead girl is lying on the floor, the same exact position as the publisher's dead body. Meanwhile, Yoon is driving her car when suddenly a little girl appears out of nowhere. Yoon immediately steps on the brakes. To her surprise, the girl is not there anymore. A knock on her left window startles Yoon. It's the same girl she passed by earlier. She lowers the window and asks why she's alone in the middle of the night. The girl explains that she's running errands. The little girl then asks Yoon to give her a ride. As they drive on, Yoon asks the girl for her age, and the girl responds that she's 16. Yoon smirks, knowing that she's lying. To Yoon, the girl looks like she's around 10. But the girl isn't lying. She mentions that she was 10 when she died, and that was 6 years ago. This scares Yoon a lot. As she faces her, the little girl is no longer in the passenger seat. She steps on the brake to process what just happened. Her car radio then turns on, and she hears a voice asking for help. Yoon then immediately exits her car. As she's standing in front of her car in shock, someone grabs her hand, which causes a laceration on her index finger. She loses her ring in the process. She then rushes back to the car, shaking. As she looks at the rearview mirror, the little girl appears. The next thing she knows, Yoon finds herself parking by the side of the road. She's not sure if what happened is real, but she can see a scar on her index finger. Later, Yoon sees a therapist to help her figure out the recent episode she experienced. She's told that what she's suffering is called Alice in Wonderland syndrome. It's a syndrome where a person doesn't know whether they are living in reality or fantasy. The therapist then advises Yoon that rest is the best remedy that she can do. Meanwhile, the coroner is surprised that there's no sign that the publisher was attacked, despite the fatal wounds she suffered. Even the prints on the knife are hers. As he is talking to detective in charge, the coroner adds that the cause of death is the severing of her carotid artery using the knife she was holding. The coroner then admits that insanity is the only explanation he could come up with for someone to inflict such pain on herself. With the new information coming to light, detective in charge is not convinced. Later, detective in charge convinces their police chief that the publisher was murdered. He also mentions that the murder has the potential to become gigantic news, as the comic appears to portray real-life deaths, which can be huge for them as detectives. Moments later, the partner keeps detective in charge up to speed and tells him that he has already informed the victim's family. The family finds no reason to believe that she'd be able to hurt herself. Since the coroner already ruled the death as suicide, the partner asks for permission to make a final report about it. He adds that he has a child on the way and must file for paternity leave. Detective in charge shuts it down as he's convinced that it was not a suicide. Meanwhile, Yoon is relaxing by the pool when she notices that someone's at the door. She opens the door, and the publisher tells her that she left her phone off. Yoon walks back in, but as she faces the publisher back, her face is full of blood and wounds. Yoon then wakes up from what appears to be a dream. As she struggles to get up, her entire body is paralyzed. The publisher then walks toward her holding a knife and aims for her eye. Yoon then wakes up. It was a dream within a dream. Soon after, a detective in charge and his partner pay Yoon a visit. They tell her that the publisher died of a supposed suicide. Yoon is devastated by the news, but refuses to believe that her publisher committed suicide. Detective in charge asks her if she does her webtoon at home. He then shows her the photo of her manuscripts, which resemble the actual crime scene. She assures the detectives that only she and the publisher have access to the manuscripts. Detective in charge then informs her that she's the last person that the publisher called. He then shows her the autopsy photos of the publisher. Detective in charge then says that judging by her wounds, he does not believe the publisher took her own life, given the suffering she must have felt. The officers listened to the last voicemail that the publisher left. She was telling Yoon that she received the manuscript, but wanted to know how she found out the way the publisher's mother died. The voicemail was then cut off, as that was the time when she got killed. Later that night, the partner shows Detective in charge that he got a hold of the publisher's diary. It's identical to the comic written by Yoon. They're starting to tie some loose ends. Meanwhile, the mortician and his assistant at a police hospital are in their vehicle when they receive a call about a man who died from electrocution. With his assistant having plans for the night, the mortician handles the dead body alone and notices that it shifts position by itself. He is convinced that he's just drunk. He then grabs a tablet and reads the webtoon read by his assistant when they were in the vehicle. As he proceeds to the next page, he sees himself and his dark past, which shows how he killed his wife after getting fed up with taking care of her. The mortician attempts to leave the morgue, but the dead man grabs him from behind. As soon as he frees himself, he holds his sharp tool and tries to hit the dead body. He hears a voice telling him to leave the dead body alone. The door then closes, locking him in. Blood then starts to come out from the storage of the dead bodies. One storage opens. He approaches it and tries to check using a lighter, but someone snatches him before he can see what's inside. He grabs his phone to light up the storage. A dead body wrapped in linen appears on top of him and covers the helpless mortician. Blood starts to come out of the dead body's face. Eventually, the dead body's face is exposed. It's the mortician's deceased wife. On the other side, after the similarities of photos, Yoon figures out the next victim and rushes toward the police hospital, trying to save the mortician. Yoon manages to open the door and yank the mortician out of the storage room, but the mortician's dead wife breaks his neck, killing him instantly. The detectives arrive a little too late, and because they can't see the ghost, the detectives are confident that Yoon killed the mortician. As the prime suspect, Yoon is arrested and interrogated. Later, Yoon explains that what she wrote was just a figment of her imagination. It was all a fantasy. Detective in charge is having difficulty believing her explanation, as all the evidence leads to her. Sensing that she's in deep trouble, she has no choice but to admit that the drawings are not hers to begin with. An anonymous sender sent her the pictures, and because she liked them, she copied them, not knowing that the drawings were based on actual events. The detectives now need to find out the sender of the drawings. Meanwhile, the partner is engrossed in a comic. He's shocked to find out that the webtoon is about his own dark secret. While celebrating a monumental milestone back then for getting into the academy, he accidentally hit a girl with his car. It turns out she's the same 10-year-old girl that Yoon encountered earlier. He was on the phone speaking with her girlfriend when the accident happened. He proposed to her on the phone. At present, the partner is able to trace the location of the sender. He is warned by the locals that the building where the sender resides is haunted. The sender, nicknamed Psychic Girl, is known in the area as the Possessed and has the ability to talk to ghosts. One time, she drew a kid and how she'd die, and it turns out that kid died precisely as she drew. The authorities are now aware that Yoon, the mortician, and Psychic Girl used to live in the same building. Detective in charge confronts Yoon as she's the only one alive at this point and takes her back to the building. Yoon explains how she met Psychic Girl. Psychic Girl was a different kid and was bullied a lot. One time, she witnessed many kids insulting and physically harming Psychic Girl, so Yoon went to protect her. That was the start of their friendship. Yoon also explains that Psychic Girl was framed for the fire in the building, which resulted in her being kicked out. While eating out with the detective, Yoon receives a text from Psychic Girl who wants to meet her. Yoon then steals Detective in Charge's car and heads toward their meeting place. Yoon soon arrives, but someone comes from behind and knocks her out. Meanwhile, Detective in Charge asks his partner to report back and help him in capturing Yoon. Detective in Charge then calls his partner, and after a brief exchange, Detective in Charge wonders how his partner knew they were in front of the restaurant when the partner wasn't even there. Detective in Charge manages to trace Yoon's location, but he's too late. The person who attacked Yoon earlier turns out to be the partner, who now knows that he can be exposed as one of the comics is about the previous crime. The partner ties her to a chair in an effort to understand where Psychic Girl is. When Yoon refuses to cooperate, the partner threatens to hit her with an axe. Suddenly, he recalls the moment when he hit that little girl. He had the chance to save her while she was stuck under the car. But when he heard his girlfriend telling him that her dad approved of his marriage proposal, he changed his mind because he can't afford his police record and marriage to be ruined by this accident. The partner is not convinced that Yoon does not know where Psychic Girl is, because Yoon refuses to cooperate. He has no other choice but to kill her. He puts her to the ground and is on the verge of murdering her. But then the partner hears the voice of a girl asking for help. The lights then start to flicker, and an image of the dead little girl appears out of nowhere. He grabs his gun and empties his chamber, but the girl is not there anymore. At that very moment, Detective in Charge arrives and discovers Yoon on the floor. He sees his partner point the gun at his head. The partner begs for help, as his hand is being controlled by the ghost. Detective in Charge tries to get closer to him and asks him to think about his unborn child. The partner explains that he's not intentionally pointing a gun at his head. A loud gunshot then echoes. In the end, the partner dies from a bullet in the head. The police chief verifies the information that he got with Detective in Charge. He asks if the partner killed himself. Detective in Charge explains that it was not due to suicide, as he is certain that it was some unseen force that pulled the trigger. This does not sit well with the chief, as such a story would be hard to explain to the media and his superiors. The chief orders Detective in Charge not to tell anybody, especially the reporters on the crime scene. Later, Detective in Charge is handed a drawing and is told that his partner is interested in it. He sees a name on the drawing and remembers that the partner mentioned the name to him before being killed. He now recalled that his partner proposed to check the other comic books, as there might be other similar cases. He did not take him seriously at that time, but he knows what's at stake right now. Meanwhile, Yoon receives a new email. This time, the drawings are stories about her beginning when she met Psychic Girl. The manuscript also reveals what Psychic Girl told Yoon back then and how she began to talk to the ghosts. It turns out the mortician was Psychic Girl's abusive father. Every time her father became abusive, the young Psychic Girl would hide in the morgue until she began to speak with ghosts of those dead people. That's how she can predict the death stories related to those dead people. Desperate to get a break from her dying career, Yoon took advantage of it and started copying the Psychic Girl stories of the dead. However, Psychic Girl did not like the idea of publishing them, as they were stories of dead people. Psychic Girl then decides to burn the drawings, as Yoon is obsessed with publishing them for the world to see. Yoon loses her mind and hits Psychic Girl with a figurine which she tries to stop her. Eventually, when Psychic Girl still refuses to give up the drawings, Yoon chokes the life out of Psychic Girl. A flashback from the past. While being interviewed, Yoon reveals that she doesn't believe in ghosts and only uses them as a metaphor to divulge an individual's darkest secrets. Currently, Detective in Charge tracks Yoon's location, but she's not ready to give up. She gets him with an axe, but the detective survives. After Yoon stabs the detective in the leg, he shoots her back, but she's not mortally wounded. The two confront each other about their greed. Yoon kills Psychic Girl to get recognized, and Detective in Charge also makes a mortal mistake. The drawings on the wall show how Detective in Charge accidentally killed his partner after stopping him from committing suicide. He killed his partner by accident, but he just made it look like a suicide case and chose to keep the secret to himself to save his career. And now Detective in Charge is meant to kill Yoon because she might witness how he killed his partner accidentally and framed the suicide case. In the end, Yoon walks away while the partner shows up before Detective in Charge for revenge. Then Detective in Charge is taken control to aim his gun at his head, ending his life. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.